Welcome, everyone. You're listening to Fear-Free Passive Investing, where it's all about discussing passive commercial real estate investing and the fears that new investors have when learning about it. We interview past newbie investors on what fears and questions they had when they got started, as well as tips and tricks to give you the confidence to make the leap. Let's face those fears and jump right in. Welcome back, Fear-Free Investors. This is episode number 3, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. Today, we're going to talk about fear. Fear is not a trivial matter. It's a word that we all use regularly, but I don't think many of us really stop to think about the impact that fear has on our lives. Now, in many ways, it restricts our lives, and at its extreme, it imprisons us. We can be made to do things or to avoid things simply by fearing them. What fears cause you to become paralyzed or freeze? Now, obviously, this is a real estate investing show, so that's primarily the context we're looking at here. But are there certain fears, phobias, or panic-inducing situation that you have to confront on a daily basis? Or maybe you've adapted or learned to overcome them? I know I have. Interestingly enough, researchers are continuing to find evidence that being proactive in facing your fears is the best way to overcome them. The idea of fear is not really well understood by neuroscientists, but we all know it when we feel it. My 3-year-old son has an extreme fear of bees because his older brother got stung by one 2 years ago. He doesn't remember it, but he understands the fear because his older brother feels the fear. He hasn't experienced it firsthand, but the fear that he feels is real. Fear can make you run and hide. It can motivate you to take action. It can freeze you dead in your tracks. I know I've experienced all of those. Fear can manifest itself into anxiety disorders, or worse, hold you back from the person that you could be. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of success. I'm not embarrassed to admit that for a long time I avoided this podcast simply because of a fear of rejection. So you're probably wondering what all of this has to do with investing. I named the podcast Fear-Free Passive Investing because I've honed in on this idea of fear and see it almost daily with the investors that I talk to. Some investors are absolutely fearless and perhaps reckless, wanting to jump straight into deals with little or no research, while other investors could be the opposite, wanting to know every detail of every line and be intimately involved. Or they're waiting for that, quote, perfect deal. I would argue that both can be to your detriment. Waiting too long can set you too far back. Jumping straight in can get you into a really bad deal. Most real estate investors experience fear. If you're void of fear, any fear, you might have some other problems. But the difference is that successful investors or entrepreneurs or business owners understand that fear is healthy. But an obsession with fear is unhealthy and can hold you back. So to wrap all this up, fear is important in our lives. It has an evolutionary purpose, but it also has its downsides. My goal as someone who takes investor money is to understand their fears, to solve their problems, and address their fears with confidence and quality education. One of the best ways I get over fear is seeing examples of people going before me and coming out the other end unscathed. Thus, that's the catalyst in starting Fear-Free Passive Investing. I want to showcase people who have been in your shoes before and come out the other side unscathed, in fact, probably better off. This podcast ended up being a little deeper than I thought it would, but it's still important, and I think I'm just going to go with it. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could take a couple minutes and let me know either by leaving a rating and review or by sending me an email at Lucas, Lucas, at bannoccapital.com, BANNOCKCAPITAL.com. If you have topics you want me to cover, let me know as well. We'll be back to interviewing someone next week. But for now, face your fears head on, and I'll be doing the same. Talk to you next week.